Welcome to our program. Today we have with us Minister of Social Cohesion, the Honorable Dr. George Norton, who will be speaking to us about some of the plans for national social cohesion. Mr. Norton, thank you for your time and welcome to our program.
Thank you very much.
Minister Norton, you have now been responsible for the social cohesion portfolio for the past 9 months. Notwithstanding the added responsibility of culture, youth, and sport, how have you been adopted?
To the Ministry of Social Cohesion, it is like duck to water. I am really happy to be involved in the actual process of making Guyana a cohesive society. I'm committed to that and I am enjoying it.
The coalition government, no doubt, would have enunciated a clear strategy towards achieving the goals of this important ministry. Does your personal vision of national cohesion differ from that of the government?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, the results we have obtained so far is all in keeping with my vision of social cohesion.
What has been the response from the Guyanese population based on conversations you would have had?
Excellent. And not only based on conversation, but based on the reaction, the actual involvement in getting activities realized that foster social cohesion. And this is across the geographical spread of Guyana.
Including the indigenous population?
Certainly, including the indigenous population.
Okay. What are some of the challenges encountered thus far? And is there a belief in the concept of national social cohesion among the Guyanese population?
First of all, social cohesion is pretty new in the idea of a ministry. And we might not have the expertise at our disposal to go into the depths that we would want to. However, I can tell you that even though we might refer to it as a learning process, we are literally learning on the job, yet we had enough foundation to set us on the right course. And social cohesion existed before the ministry. We are putting it in a structured manner, and we are receiving the results that we expect.
Okay, is there already acceptance of social cohesion from the younger generation as against the older people?
Well, I must say that when we invited and we conversed with what you might refer to as the older population, they readily offer suggestion, they readily offered to share their experience, and they gave us their encouragement. I'm grateful for that. And with regards to the younger generation, we never had a rule out of their participation. I think everyone wants to come on board, and this augurs well for us as a nation.
Given our troubled past, and which is still a significant factor in our contemporary political, social, and economic experience, are the goals of social cohesion achievable?
It certainly is. There's no doubt about that, and we have achieved some of the goals already. But you mentioned that word which really stood out like a sore thumb, the political aspect. Many a times the so-called troubled past that you refer to is only brought to fore by certain politicians. And I make a national appeal now, that it's time that the Guyanese nation should, forget about the past, try not to keep harping on it, mentioning it unnecessarily, and I think we've got a bright future ahead of us.
What must Guyanese as a people understand about social cohesion?
That as a people we cannot develop our nation to its true full potential unless we do so in a cohesive manner. While we are proud of having a great diversity in terms of being a nation of 6 peoples, yet we can show the world, we can be an example, we can, let our light shine for the world to follow of building a nation that is truly one people.
Minister Norton, you were recently given the responsibility of culture, youth, and sport. What kind of Guyanese expect?
Well, I must use this opportunity to express my gratitude and my joy of having the remit of youth, sports, and culture, particularly since I became Minister of Social Cohesion, because youth, sports, and culture is pivotal in the achievement of a cohesive society in Guyana. The older generations you referred to earlier would have pointed out to us in no uncertain terms that in order for us to achieve our vision and mission of social cohesion, we have to start with the youths. We have to start from the young. Some even said from kindergarten. I'm of that conviction. And there's no doubt about it that if we're starting from that age, then youth will play that pivotal role in the attainment of social cohesion. Sports speaks for itself. There's no doubt about it. It breaks down barriers, bring villages, communities, regions together. A classical example is what is attained right now at our Heritage Games. And of course, culture. We advise, we promote persons to know their culture, know their history, know where they're from. Only then could they then appreciate someone of a different background, of a different culture, and it helps in the process of social cohesion.
Minister, we were recently in Region 9, and I know that you spoke extensively about getting those hinterland youths, because they're very talented, getting them out here and to be able to assist them in representing Guyana, even internationally. How would you go about doing this to ensure that those young indigenous Guyanese get the chance to represent Guyana?
Well, I'm reaching a point already where I think we should stop talking about the potentials of indigenous hinterland youths. And I prefer to refer to the term hinterland because I think it's the lifestyle that matters so much more. Living in the highlands, having, let's say, the customs of walking long distances, and most likely eating the right type of food. And as a result of that, they do perform well in sports. The other thing about it is we've got to do more than we're doing at the moment. It is all well and good for us to go to the Everest Sports Club sometime in September during Heritage Month to see female footballers playing against each other from the hinterland region as well as the male footballers, and then that's the end of it. It cannot be. We have a national football team right now that is supposed to be leaving the country to play a match in Grenada. I doubt whether there are any hinterland footballers among them. But when you saw that final last night, it tells us that we don't have a true representation. Now, I'm not pointing fingers, not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that we have got to change the system that is in place. And it would not only be football, I only use that. But I know personally of young female athletes doing the 10K road run at the so-called nationals, only to have disappeared into the hinterland villages, never to be seen or heard of again, in spite of efforts being made to find out about them. And I can call names. That must become a thing of the past. And it's time we take this situation seriously. We just can't go on talking. Only last week, I was informed by someone who probably, for a very large part of his adult life, has been associated with professional boxing. And he was telling me what has been proven scientifically, he's got stats to show it, that our chances of getting world champion in the sport of boxing from our hinterland boxers or sportsmen are so high. It's only a question of time before we actually start really deriving benefits from these ideas. We know for a fact that persons used to come from the hinterland and compete in sports like swimming. You know, we've got to start exploiting those potential. The earlier we start, it will be the better for Guyana. We've got to work towards attaining that elusive gold medal that we are longing for at the level of the Olympics Games. Only yesterday at the workshop of the Commonwealth Games Federation, we had so much persons talking about the potential of indigenous peoples here in Guyana. Talking is not going to help it. We've got to put system in place. We've got to change that which was not giving us the correct. But you know, it's always good, it's always easier to steer the car while it's driving. It's not going to happen overnight. We probably might have to continue with what exists until we can, you know, steer it in the right course. But I can assure this nation that I'm going to do all that I can to put things in place.
Okay, Minister, you dealt with the indigenous population, but generally, sports development is a big thing. Getting our athletes ready for the Olympics and all these things. Under your stewardship, how will this be addressed?
Now, no one should look to the ministry responsible for sports to get our athletes, you know, to the level where they can compete internationally. It's got to be a national process. Communities, schools have got to be involved, communities have got to be involved, regions have got to be involved, ministries have got to be involved. And it points to the direction of the emphasis we place on sports. It is really, really sometimes, what I might say, discomforting to hear persons, the leadership in a society, in a community, speaking about sports and games as though it is not a good thing. You know, telling the young children that they must not be seen playing games when they're supposed to be at lessons, taking your children to school at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then 8 o'clock school, and then 4 o'clock again at lessons for them to go home at 6 o'clock. I don't think that's going to help us. I really don't think so. And unless we make physical education, sports become a major part of our school curriculum, only then I think we can look forward to changing the status quo. We've got to start not only having presentation ceremonies for persons who have gained so much subjects at the CSEC or at CAPE, or those who got good schools from the grade 6 examination. We've got to start holding an awards ceremony for persons in our community that has been a good athlete, has got talent. You know, it's not all maths and English. While I agree that we cannot in no way downplay their role, because I can tell you, while I might not have been the Minister of Sports, I was involved. And I know for a fact that scholarships were available, but you had to have a level of academic achievement before you can enjoy those scholarships. And we might have not benefited from those scholarships because we could not provide the candidate. So it goes hand in hand. And while youth sports and culture might have been separated to some extent from education, we can never really and truly lose focus of that part of the, let's say, nurturing of our children.
Minister, let's go to culture. Are you satisfied with the preservation of our culture, especially in the hinterland areas where we have the indigenous culture being lost in some areas? Are you satisfied, and what plans do you have to ensure that we preserve our culture for a younger generation, especially?
Well, I can tell you things have changed for the better over the past few years, and whoever the credit should be given to, let them not be denied. Um, but it is not only culture, it is also language, and customs. And if enough effort is made for us to maintain that communication in our own language, it will go a far way. And I would want to promote that. I've been to other countries in the Caribbean that are making a desperate effort to maintain their indigenous culture. And I can tell you, in their efforts, they're losing what is the authentic something. Let us not fall into that situation. The North American continent, things have changed, but we got to understand that that is culture. We probably all came from the caves, but while one is being represented at a cultural level with a suit and tie, another is being represented with grass skirts, and that can be best be described as spurious. That is not how the people actually live. So we've got to kind of be careful of how we go about doing it. What we can certainly do is not to let one feel in any way complex by their past, by their culture. They must, while we might not be doing the correct thing in terms of how it used to be done in the past, at least we must have that recorded so people know what is genuine from what is being invented.
Let's go to youth development. Have you had a chance to review the national youth policy, and how soon can we see this policy being implemented?
There is no doubt about the fact that if you're going to have any policy, any plan, you need consultation, okay? And I take it that that youth policy, persons would have done full consultation with all the stakeholders. And then after that, you meet to have a validation exercise of your policy when it's being approved and so on. And then you need a plan of implementation. We've got to let persons, we've got to let the population, the Guyanese community know what that policy is, what that youth policy is. And we've also got to let them be aware of how we plan to implement it. So our first move is to let that youth policy be disseminated as much as possible to, the whole Guyanese population, so that when we are trying to realize that policy or putting it into reality, we all know where we're going and what is expected.
Thank you, Minister Northon, for your time. Today we have with us the Honorable Dr. George Northon, Minister of Social Cohesion, who updated us on some of his plans for the ministry. Thanks for staying with us. Until next time.